we have quite a bit of agenda. So I will probably let it go and see if we can manage everything within an hour and now 25 minutes. So today for this first session, this is a part of department event called Celebrating International Collaboration. So this year, as you know, that because of pandemic that we're going through together, instead of inviting a couple of speakers from different countries, we have decided to take a moment to look back and see how we have done for the past 10 or many years in terms of our relationship with international partnership. So the TEL Center as one of the 3 research center at Lancaster University at RES department. We also try to think about what we have done already in terms of our membership, which has been globally based, although we're kind of Lancaster here. So this event is all about celebrating, and we were going to have a little bit of showcase of 11 different projects that we center members have been engaged with, and see what's going on around the world with the name of CTEL. So today we will give you some center overview because some of you are new and probably wondering what this center is really about. So we're going to have a little overview, and again, 11 research projects will be very fast presented. Each person will talk 5 minutes max, so that will be really fun, and we'll see if we can squeeze some Q&A in between. And then also TEL Center, which is research center, has quite close link to TEL PhD program. So we have director of the program here with us, and Dawn is going to introduce the program briefly, just in case some of you are interested in joining the program later on. And then what's next? This is entire month celebrating this theme as together as a center. So we have more exciting events kind of ready now throughout the April. So we're going to talk about those events briefly too. So let's just kick off with the idea of CTEL. As you can see, some of the we're in Lancaster, which is not very accessible in terms of our physical location, but it has been amazing that we could have our members around the world. So who we are in terms of as a center, as introduced, it has been we are a hub for research and practice and technology enhanced learning, as the name of the title of the center suggests. And what we are doing is we're working on different theoretical and practical challenges related to TEL, or educational usage of different technological medium for teaching and learning in a very different or diverse education setting, both informal and formal. And then we have a core team mostly working at the Department of Education Research at Lancaster University. Many of them are physically based in Lancaster or somewhere close in Europe. But we do have a large number of associate members. Some of them are very close collaborator of the core members are working together on specific research project. And also we do have alumni members. As I mentioned, that we have close link to the TEL PhD program, and all those alumni members who've been with us and trained as to be a researcher also join us as alumni members. And we do support, and then we find it very we are very enthusiastic about supporting our doctoral researchers who are enrolled in the program or a different program at the department. So PhD students are our very invaluable contributor to the center. So here I am, and next part, the Brett, if you can turn on your microphone and talk about it. And one thing that I will use here is, sorry, I didn't use it for myself because that made me too nervous. It's a little timer. Can you see the little timer? So it will be a bit of pressure, but don't worry too much unless it hit number 1. But I will just, for sake of helping everyone to be like on the speed, I will just click it. And so you know how many times, how much like minutes you have left. So for next section, Brett will introduce more about the center and within 5 minutes. So good luck with that.
Okay, thank you. If I speak to time, it would be historically unprecedented, but I shall do my best. So the core thing that I think you'll have got from Kyungmee is that we're a fairly large group of people, and our members have quite varied backgrounds and interests. By the way, can everybody see me? I'm not somehow seeing myself. No.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, you can see me. Okay.
I can see you.
Okay, that's slightly disconcerting, but anyway, so our members have quite varied backgrounds and interests. There's a lot of us in the Department of Educational Research here at Lancaster, but even our associate members from within the same university are drawn from a range of departments. So we have associates from linguistics, associates from computer science, associates from the management school, and so forth. And many of the people who we engage with at doctoral level and who go on to become our alumni members have their own trajectories too. They might come from a practitioner background, and so they're changing to be researchers, or they might come from all sorts of backgrounds, including in the private sector or in medical schools or in law schools or whatever, and they're getting interested in technology enhanced learning. So it's a bit challenging to see what are all of the points of commonality. So what we did a few years ago is we had a period of trying to collectively understand what those points of commonality were. And we came up with 3 broad research themes, which you can see on the slide. So I won't talk about them, each of them a lot, but we hope that the titles are fairly self-explanatory. But basically, we see the joint points of our research as being about inclusivity, pedagogy, and learning. Partly, this is a reaction to how technology always comes associated and bundled with certain kinds of rhetoric, and our desire to be a bit critical about that kind of rhetoric. So to what extent is technology emancipatory? To what extent does technology really include more people? We're very interested in that. And in particular, we're interested in change and how technology is integrated into practice in ways that are very, very closely implicated with the histories of those practices. The second of our themes is criticality, theory, and research. We actually want to prioritize research itself and the research field itself as a core part of our work. The whole history and progress of the technology enhanced learning research field is very interesting in the sense that it's actually quite problematic, and there's a lot of interesting work that needs doing there. We're also quite opposed to the notion that theorization is somehow anything to be downplayed, and that being theoretical is somehow to be counterposed against being applied. And mobility, time and space, which is about how technology affects how, when, and where people engage in education, and caters for more and different and more varied kinds of people, and how the settings from which they engage actually affect how they engage with technology. So the core activities of the centre, for those who are relatively new to it, we have 2 main series of events. The first is called Meet and Eat, where we actually have a discussion group. We read a paper and we discuss the paper with the paper's author. And we've run perhaps about 12 of those so far. There are a few more coming over the next few weeks, including as part of this event, this Celebrating International Collaboration series of events. And the second is Show and Tell, which are effectively capacity development workshops. Recent ones have included peer reviewing for academic journals, writing op-ed pieces for public engagement, managing time as an academic, and things like that. We engage with people via social media. So if you don't follow us already, please do on Twitter and YouTube. Twitter is where you find out about things that are going to happen or things that are happening now. And YouTube is a venue for where we put the recordings of our previous events. So many of those Show and Tell and Meet and Eat workshops, many of the recordings are available on our YouTube channel. We're associated with a structured doctoral program, which someone else will talk about shortly. And we bring together a wide range of networks. So for some time, many of our people have been involved in the network learning community. And many of us are also involved in setting up a new journal called Studies in Technology Enhanced Learning. And I think that's might be
well done. Yeah. Okay, so how is that? The timer worked for you, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I hope that that was really good kind of rehearsal for everyone else who has to go through the same. Again, don't worry too much. I'm not going to cut you off, but just so you know that like how much time left for you. So from now on, we're going to move on to next section, which we're going to present the 11 TEL projects that's currently going on with some of them are really hot, just like starting projects. So I'm very excited personally to hear about them. I just tried to organize them some geographically, but I wasn't so smart about it. But anyway, the first one, just for probably self-centered reason, we can start from South Korea. So we will start from Asia to Middle Eastern and Africa, and we're going to go to North America and come back to Europe. So that's the idea. So let's hope this is going to be enjoyable. Feel free to use chat tool to ask question or comment anything. Just remind you that many of you are using the same name like mine. So everyone just popped up as Kyungmee. So you're not Kyungmee, right? So it would be very helpful if you just clarify who you are before asking a question. All right, so shall we go? Sejin, are you there? So I'll highlight you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's pretty much good. Okay, so go for it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sejin Lee, a final year PhD student, and my academic supervisor is Kyungmee Lee. And I'd like to introduce this project, and the project is called Smart Education and Smart Governance. And I tried to rethink the concept of smartness. This project is originated from my PhD thesis, in which I try to consider the discourses of smart education. So let me introduce this project a bit more. Technology is such a buzzword in education, just like everywhere, that we have seen multiple cases of edutech initiatives around the globe. Korea has one called Smart Education, which was intended to innovate Korean education system. As the best research site, this study focuses on Sejong. It is called as a smart city, and it was launched in 2011, just like Smart Education Initiative. Officials, teachers, reporters from abroad visit and benchmark smart schools in Sejong. But less known in academic knowledge is the actual governance of such edutech initiatives. Scholarly discussion is limited to neoliberalism and management of the teachers' digital competencies. This project will add new knowledge about how smart governance, which means the governance of smart education. We will analyze how smart governance is constructed by documenting actual voices of teachers, school managers, teacher educators, and a supervisor from the city. And this is the thing that I prepared for this event. That's all. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sejin. That was very quick. So shall we come back? So come back to it. But since we have a little bit of time left, is there any question from the audience?
A bit difficult to do in some parts of the world.
I just wondered how threatened do you feel, because clearly there's a lot of power behind the smart concept, and yeah. Do you feel safe?
Would you tell a bit more of the concept of smart? Like, could you tell me a bit more about the meaning of safe?
Yeah, politically, there's a lot of power behind this move,
okay.
and people, neoliberalism, as you said, is a very powerful movement.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud your attempts to unpick it a bit.
Mm-hmm. So if I understand if I can understand your question correctly, I am kind of like excited to think about this movement, like with the name of smart. I'm thinking about a book written by Michael Sandel, and it's the book called The Tyranny of Justice. And in the book, he introduced the word concept has been the buzzword, like, and this word came from the speech of the president, like from 2 decades ago, and it replaced the terms such as the right or wrong, and it is definitely a strong and powerful word, and that makes me more like energetic in studying that concept. And in understanding the smart education, I actually want to deconstruct so that we can think about the different possibilities for the future education. So yeah, did it work? Did it explain to your kind of question?
I certainly think that it needs to be unpicked, and I think yeah, sounds like a really good target.
Okay. And I see another question.
Thank you, Sejin. Sejin, we may be able to come back to that question later, but shall we just move on? So thank you for the really short presentation. So shall we move to Reya?
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Reya Saliba. I'm very lucky to have Kyungmee as my supervisor for my PhD. My topic is about faculty attitudes, preparedness, and response to adopting technology-enhanced learning in troubled times. And by troubled times, I mean the pandemic crisis that we are going through. And my research is situated in Qatar. It's a case study of education cities, higher education institutions. And by higher education institutions in Education City, I mean the 6 American transnational higher education institutions that are here located in Qatar. They have branch campuses in Qatar. And I am trying to get the faculty attitude and how they see the challenge that they went through when they moved completely online. So it's a case study. My participants are faculty members. It's about online learning in transnational higher education institution. I'm using a mixed methods. I have a survey and I am targeting 40 participants, but so far I have been only lucky to get 30 participants. And in the survey also, I asked them if they would be interested in an interview. And I had so far 9 participants that replied to me and they are willing to participate in the interview. That's what has been going on so far. The progress, my literature review is 70% done. I'm still collecting my data. And the data analysis did not start yet because I want to finish collecting my data. But I'm finding these barriers, and I don't know if you have the same type of barriers when you are collecting your data. So the first one is survey fatigue. Most of the faculty seem to be overwhelmed with surveys and interviews and focus group. So I'm not getting too much response. There's also a strict hierarchical organization. By that, I mean that I have to reach out to the IRB of each of the universities, send them my IRB from my institution, and get them to decide whether they want to circulate my email or not. The schedule also is very tricky because during the semester, faculty are very busy. So it's very challenging for them to meet with me. It took me 3 months to get the local IRB approved, although I had the ethicals approved from Lancaster, but still I needed a local IRB, and this is something that takes a lot of time. And finally, lack of interest. It seems like faculty are already fed up with online teaching and learning that they don't want to talk about it. I wanted to tell you very briefly about this and about the barriers because I want also to reach out to you and to see if you have any ideas or any recommendation for me that I can implement to overcome the barriers and to collect the needed data. So I welcome any suggestion you have on r.saliba@lancaster. And I'll be very grateful if you can help me. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Reya. Since we have like a little bit more time left, is there anyone from the audience kind of can give us tip top how to address those barriers?
There is a question here from Mike. He is asking how I define troubled times. It is the pandemic. When the pandemic hit in March last year, these were the troubled times. So I'm trying to see how faculty got along during this time versus now that we got used to the fact that we are teaching online.
All right.
Maybe one question?
Sure.
Sure. So have you like in your university, have you done like change management before that time? Or have you started since the COVID?
I started since the COVID.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so basically COVID enabled a lot of things to be able to happen, isn't it? So, all right, thank you, Reya, for a great presentation. So shall we move to Said? Said, are you there? Okay, so I couldn't really see him. So if one of Kyungmee can be Said here, or if not, we can probably come back to Said later on. He may have a little issue to join the session as well. All right, perfect. So the Russia.
Hello, can you hear me well?
Very good.
Excellent. Hello, how are you? I hope you are all doing great. Okay, today I'm going to talk about activity theory for describing the key elements and challenges of a professional development program. Now I will show you how that occurs through the visual of the activity theory. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, excellent. So here the subject is a trainer, and the tools that will be used are video and document manuals, laptops, internet connection, software applications, and the lab. The objectives is to make teachers be able to use Google applications in order to design and develop the following: a website that includes the teaching material, individual activities using different learning elements, and finally, different types of collaborative activities using different learning elements as well. The rules that were used here were 12 sessions, 3 hours each. Application is a must, so they have to apply what they learned, use different applications such as Google Sites, Google Slides, and Google Forms, in addition to video recording software called Screencast-O-Matic. The community is a national school that I haven't been to before, and they were 100 trainees in addition to an administrator and me as a trainer. In this study, I found different obstacles and different challenges, so I will talk about them in the next slide, please. Okay, here regarding the meaning, most of the teachers didn't know what's meant by online teaching, especially in the COVID-19, during the COVID-19. They thought that online teaching is equal to Zoom. So whenever we say we are going to teach online, they just think about Zoom immediately. In addition to that, regarding the objectives, they thought that the online teaching is only about transfer of knowledge. So they open the Zoom and they keep on talking for 1 hour and a half, and that's it. This is the online session. So these were different misconceptions regarding online teaching in general. Concerning diversity, teachers come from different backgrounds and they are teaching different subject fields. So I have to think about how they are going to collaborate together, since they were 100 teachers. In addition to that, the culture was different. I come from a different background, and I used to train teachers in higher education. However, these were from the schools, so the culture was different. In addition, it was a different city, and they have their own traditions and culture as well. So it was a bit different. So I needed to break the ice in order to, at the beginning, in order to make them accept the training itself and accept its objectives. Concerning the software, it was available, it was free. So this was okay. However, most of them thought that the software is only about how to know it from the technical perspective, not from the educational technology perspective. So this was really an issue because I had to make their mind shifted to shift their mind in order not to think about it from a technocentric way, but from an educational technology perspective. Regarding the policy, there was a bit of resistance here because teachers always, whenever I trained them, they thought about the Ministry of Education and the different rules and objectives that come every now and then. So this was a bit challenging for them. And they always tell me, what if they didn't accept something like that, this idea and so forth. However, what's good was that they were able, the 100 teachers were able to create a website for the course, upload on a reel in different ways, such as audio, video, text. In addition, they were able to create individual activities for the students through Google Forms, and also collaborative activities using different Web2 technologies. And here I made them use Google Slides as a tool for different Web2 technologies. And it's important also to highlight here that in this project, I made them use different learning elements to illustrate between the different learning elements as highlighted by Passey 2011 Learning Elements Framework, which I used in my PhD as well with Professor Don Passey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're really on time.
Thank you.
Well done. Do you have any quick question from the audience? All right. If you do have it, feel free to type in the chat. For now, let's move on to next presentation. Oh, sorry. Okay, so next presentation from Claire Brad. I'm particularly happy for her to join us. She's my supervisor and my forever partner. Claire, can you turn on your camera and can I see you?
Did.
Lovely.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. Great to see Kyungmee, and I saw Murat's name in the list too. So hi, Murat. And it's lovely to see all of you. I'll just quickly go over this project that we're kind of starting. I'm doing this with colleagues, Kathy Broad, who's our Associate Chair Teacher Ed, and another faculty member there at OISE. And the internationalizing aspect of our work comes from the fact that Toronto is so incredibly multicultural, something that's even happened more since Trump's kind of unfortunate reign in the US, where a lot of people additional people came to Canada and have kind of stayed. And so our challenge in Toronto, which is, and our university is right downtown, is dealing with a teacher education program that's extremely diverse, but yet, it's very traditional in many ways. Most of the faculty are, white middle-class women, and our BIPOC students don't see themselves reflected in the educational experiences of teachers or the curriculum. So when the pandemic began, I worked with my Pepper research team of fabulous students, of which Kyungmee and Murat were members. We developed an entirely online system to help our faculty go online. And that's become a kind of data hub for us to both provide support for faculty, but it's also a place where we can also collect data as we continue. So we've been doing a lot of ongoing professional development, technology mentors for the going online, but a lot of PD sessions to develop a greater understanding of historical, racial and cultural oppressions in Canada, including around Black, Indigenous history and contributions, and the history of white racism, and how power is exerted through institutionalized practices, who counts, whose voices are acknowledged. The program itself is a graduate level 2.5-year Master of Teaching program of about 840 students. and it leads to a master's degree in Ontario teaching certification. And our focus is on the teacher educators, really. And we're drawing on sort of theory in teacher education and and sort of equity-centered views of this, as well as trauma-informed pedagogies. And we're really looking at teacher educator pedagogy and attitudes. And how did it adapt to the COVID-19 challenge, and whether those things were sustained, and particularly the attitudes, because what we've really seen and felt and are continuing to feel is this incredible sympathy and a much more fertile ground for this kind of professional development, which is really exciting, actually. So we're going to use many different data sources. A lot will be interviews, because I've also noticed that the fatigue from other kinds of questionnaires, and in fact, I myself have not been filling in questionnaires for people because it's just overwhelming. But also using pedagogical artifacts to have conversations around, as well as some of the student kind of responses to these experiences. We're going to have a wide range of teacher educators across the different panels, from different subject areas and from diverse cultural backgrounds. And as I mentioned before, you know, this is a big university in a big city. And so we hope that the data will provide this kind of insight into the experiences, both around the technology uptake and the technology uptake in the context of these equity-centered views. I think that will do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. So I do have a little question. So you said that like you kind of observe a lot of people are sympathetic during COVID-19. So could you please unpack that? And then you want that to be sustained after COVID-19. So I'm just wondering what that means.
Well, we're not sure what it means either, but we're hoping that what will be sustained is there's an empathy that is developed, and a kind of an understanding that comes from the sort of a personal recognition of the challenges that people are having, and our students. And and that seems to me a moment to build on, because it connects with the kind of content that people need in order to do good equity-focused work. But what we're trying to do is look at that. We want to unpack that a bit more and see if there are connections, and if that sort of emotional piece, if you like, will kind of support this growth, because you know how difficult professional development is. So we're hoping this will stick.
Thank you. Good luck with that. I'll be very excited to follow up. Okay, thank you, Claire. So, I mean, we have the question on the chat. Claire, if you can answer it in the chat, that would be helpful. So for now, shall we move to Cvetanka? Are you there? So it can be my pronunciation of your name. So it's you. If you can turn on your camera. Lovely, thank you. Can you help us to be able to say your name?
I can't see my picture, so can you see and hear me? Now. Technology is working slowly today here.
I'm same here for me too.
So hi everyone, my name is Cvetanka, and I have recently graduated a technology enhanced learning program, and I'm very happy to tell you briefly what my thesis was about. And I studied a particular online reflective tool, and it was used by students in Germany doing an internship abroad, somewhere in Europe. And those students all had a grant from the European Union and was supposed to complete an online course in intercultural communication during their internship. So my aim was to explore how the students use the competence path an online tool for self-assessment and reflection, which was part of that online intercultural course. And to understand how students made use of it, because it was a voluntary tool. And second, it focused only on anticipatory reflection, which is not that usual. The most common forms of reflection are reflection after an event and reflection during an event. However, that tool was intended to prepare students better for their internship, and it asked them to self-evaluate their skills and knowledge in 5 particular areas: language competence, intercultural competence, social and teamwork, management and organization, creativity and problem solving. So they had questions which were guiding them to set goals for the internship, and not only goals, but also come up with ideas and a plan how they want to achieve them, and to check that they are developing. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to say briefly, the main message from the thesis is that it is an advantage to include anticipatory reflection in the reflective practice of students on an internship, because it helps the transition and bridging their theoretical knowledge from university and the internship. It also helps students set their own goals, make them think about what I personally want to achieve, who is going to help me, how can I achieve that. So they also get used to reflective practice at the beginning of the internship, and are prepared to continue reflecting during and after the internship. And anticipatory reflection also helps them develop their metacognitive skills, which means they become more aware of the way they learn and they enhance their skills. So my suggestions for other academics designing online reflective practice is to build relevance, which means give students some prompts, but also show them how this online reflective practice is useful for them and not generally. So make it clear what advantages they personally have from engaging in reflection. Also start with anticipatory reflection, because this helps get students also used to reflective practice as a skill or a competence, and allow students to reflect and encourage them to do that not only online, but also to talk with colleagues at the working place, and to use different modalities of reflection, not only writing their reflective thoughts online, but also social reflection on the workplace, in addition to the online environment, and also encourage them to use video or audio or drawing, just to experiment and to find their way of reflecting, because there is not only one way, one best way for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, within time. So do we have any quick question from audience? Just to be clear then, so anticipatory reflection, what is the key things very different from any normal reflection activities?
Well, what is important about anticipatory reflection is that you do it before something happens in your life. So usually students are asked to write a report after the internship, and they reflect on what has happened during the internship. But they are not able to to really try something out, because the internship is already done. And in this case, with anticipatory reflection, you ask them to reflect on what they know, what they want to improve, and how they want to achieve it. So before the event.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we have a good comment from the chat as well. Shall we move to next presenter, who is Thomas here. It's good to have you back to the center again. Great. Are you ready, Thomas?
I hope so.
Well, thank you.
Now I can't see myself, but I hope I'm in focus. Yes, thank you. Oh, here I am. Yes, I'm going to share some thoughts on what's called the Unfold project, Unified Platform for the Future of Learning and Development. That sounds very ambitious, doesn't it? I should say I'm a professor in PBL and digital learning in the Aalborg Center for Problem-Based Learning, which is located in Aalborg University in Aalborg, Denmark. It can't get any more Aalborg than that, I think. I'll get a bit back to Aalborg University. It's a project collaboration between university and a technology company, as well as industry and education partners. And it's funded by what is called the Innovation Fund Denmark, with approximately €2 million. And the goal is to develop a new type of digital learning platform designed to enable learning through various new forms of collaboration, emphasizing automation of qualitative feedback and increasing ability to measure learning outcomes and return of investment. So you see there are some industrial partners there as well. But we are from Aalborg University, and Canopy Lab is the industrial partner. We have University College of North Denmark, Port of Aalborg, and Arla, which is a huge company, dairy and milk, butter, stuff like that. But what we aim to do in the project is to further develop the Canopy platform, to develop it for scalable and efficient upskilling in the workplace through three main innovations. What we call digitized experiential and collaborative learning, automated qualitative feedback, and then measurability of educational impact. And I'll try to unpack that a little more in the next slide. Because from a research perspective, what is interesting here is that I should say Aalborg University is a university where in every semester, students work with PBL, or project and problem-based learning, as we call it, which means they work in a group of approximately 5 students for half their credits, which is 15 ECTS, on a project that they choose themselves. They choose the problem, the theories, they have a supervisor, and so on. So they are engaged in this kind of work. But what we are interested in is really supporting collaborative pedagogies at scale, and how we can work with pedagogical patterns for PBL, hackathons, mega projects that can be implemented in the platform. So how could we sort of say, how is PBL usually carried out? How are hackathons usually designed? And then it could be a scaffold for teachers who are unsure about how to design an environment for PBL learning or hackathons. So we could put these patterns into the system, and in the dream world, of course, you can click a button and then you have a design for a PBL course. It's probably not going to work in any way like that, but having some basic recipes for how to support such pedagogies in the system is what we aim to do. Also, we're very interested in how to provide meaningful automated feedback in collaborative pedagogies, and work with competence profiles, and the whole reason, the whole area of meaningful automated feedback is, of course, very, very difficult, because if we want to give students something meaningful back, but it's automated, it could be on their collaboration, it could be on the process, what should they possibly be doing next, or on collaboration patterns and so on. It's very much we don't know yet what we will end up with, to be honest. It is a development and research project, and there's a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of messy, complicated and problematic issues to address, e.g. how to give automated feedback. Is that desirable? How can we help students that work together in providing good feedback on the collaboration, for instance? But I'll stop it there.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Perfect. I think we have comments on the chat, basically saying that they really like your ideas. Do we have any question from audience? So this meaningful automated feedback, are you thinking in terms of technologically, are you thinking of some AI involved in?
Yes, it is a company that's very interested in developing their AI. So, I mean, we don't know yet what we'll be focusing on, but students do make problem formulations, and maybe we could have software that could look at analyze problem formulations, something like that, or collaboration patterns, for instance. I mean, we do know a bit about how students most effectively can go about PBL, and could we put some supports into the system and say, well, maybe you should actually read more literature before you go to the problem formulation, and so on. But it is very explorative.
That sounds really exciting. So it looks like we have two platforms developed. Claire has done one, and Thomas, you're doing another. So we'll see. I mean, if there is any way for us to actually go into each other's and see something else than Moodle. Okay, thank you so much. If you have any other question, please feel free to put it in the chat. Shall we move into Mike?
Hello, hi. Hello, hi. Has my countdown started yet? Not quite.
I will do that. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I've got a fairly close script to try and keep me to time, because otherwise it's like, oh no. In fact, I've done it already, haven't I? Mike Johnson, I'll be speaking to you about phenomenology and network learning. I'm normally in Wales. That's the spot on the map marked the flag of St. David, the patron saint of Wales, on the far left. If you don't recognize that as a map, you might see it, understand it a bit more closely in the next slide, but we don't want to go there yet, because this picture shows me in Greece. Back a bit. This was 2008 for the 6th International Conference on Network Learning. This is the first time I presented a paper, although I had attended first in 2004. It was also the first time the conference had gone to a country other than the UK. So the co-chairs have been from Denmark, Thomas, and Australia, Martin Delat, since 2014, I think. And that's the last we saw of the sun for 3 days. I don't know if Thomas remembers that. Not just because we were indoors, it was actually, it started raining. My paper is about students' use of anonymity in university online discussion forums. And you can read that and all the conference proceedings for free to access since 1998 too. And it is a tremendous resource for TEL researchers everywhere. In the Network Learning Conference community, you have a ready-made international community of scholars and connections. I could list some, but I won't. The heart of the NLC is unsurprisingly network learning, and apologetically so. It's a bit of a mysterious concept, but basically it's a welcoming broad church in terms of methodologies and themes. So align yourself to it is actually not difficult and highly recommended. The diversity of this community is actually wonderful, and it can really enrich and inform, challenge and develop you. So I'd really encourage you to seriously consider getting involved. Submit a paper in October, that's usually the deadline. You get feedback then by December and hopefully accepted. There's lots of learning technology conferences, but it really starts to bear fruit if you select one and commit to that over a long period, I've found. However, as you can see from the next slide, the map stars, the diversity is rather limited to rich countries, and maybe you can help to address that. So we're doing what we can with HandVod. HandVod is, you can go to the next slide, Kyungmee, thank you. So I'd like to introduce you to handvod.nl. We've been cheeky and pinching the Dutch domain name there. So that is actually a website, handvod.nl. It's Welsh for essence, which is a key term in phenomenology, as you might know. HandVod began because I reached out to somebody called Felicity, because we were both presenting about phenomenology at the last year's conference. So it happened that she was from just down the road in Llanelli. The Network Learning Conference Consortium were interested in sponsoring node events in between years. The conference is biennial, and so one event is due to take place in Malta in May, and we were charged with organising one in Cardiff in June. For various reasons, partly COVID related, we decided to do this more or less independently of our respective universities, and so we created HandVod as a little learned society. We both agreed that network learning could make more and better use of phenomenology, but there were certain barriers to entry which we wanted to do something about. We have these joint aims to clarify, coalesce and strengthen phenomenology and network learning. And to do this, we've instigated a few interventions. We were hoping to have a Petra Kucha session with scholars speaking about their own experiences of phenomenology and network learning. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen, so we decided to go with trying to fulminate a series of short videos of them doing so. So we're in hot pursuit of contributors, and we want to hear from people who use phenomenology to inform their research, preferably in pursuit of questions related to network learning. We've been working with Professor Cathy Adams of Alberta, we have crowned our phenomenologydd preswyl. There we are, I carried that off. That's Welsh for phenomenologist in residence. First time this phrase has really ever been used or coined. Max van Manen's phenomenology practice approach is going to be used to these two aspects, really. We've got a live online workshop in June 10th to the 11th, over 2 days from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we're warmly invited everyone to join in that, and please see the website for more information. And then we're intending to write a paper about learners' experiences of Zoom breakout rooms, which we hope is going to be really useful and relevant and current and ready for October, which is, as I said, the deadline for submitting full papers to the next conference, to be held in Sweden next year. And if you attend the workshop, we might be able to coalesce a symposium and develop these into a journal special edition or a book in the Network Learning series published by Springer. So this is all through the generous support of Network Learning Conference collaboration and Cathy Adams, especially, who's invested a lot of time in us in HamVod as well. A final point, if you want to find out more about phenomenology as opposed to phenomenography, you should attend the next Meet and Eat event later this month. Full stop. I will stop there.
Well done. So you were able to squeeze
5 minutes?
two events promotion within 5 minutes. So proud of you, Mike. Well done. So anyone who is interested in any of that event that just promoted, please let us know. And Mike, I think that you can circulate that again. I think you have already done that to do through this CTEL, but you can repeat it so people can be. All right, so shall we move to next presenter? So feel free to, again, ask question on the chat, please. So next we have Jane, finally in UK.
Thanks, Kyungmee. Okay, so again, I can't, there we go, here we are. Okay, so thank you very much for asking me to talk about my research. I'm very honoured to do so. I'm a third-year PhD student on the TEL programme as well, and I'm based in York in the beautiful county of Yorkshire in the north of England, and there's some lovely pictures of our daffodils at the moment, our Minster, our countryside and our coast. So my research is focusing on the professional development needs of online educators. And this research was designed actually just before the COVID outbreak started to happen last year. And I'm looking at expansive learning and collective transformative agency using the Change Laboratory as my research methodology intervention. So what is the background to the study? If you could move it on, thank you. So even before the COVID outbreak from last year, many educators were moving from a campus situation where they're in charge of a physical classroom to the online classroom in either a hybrid sort of setup or a fully online setup. And the expectations for many institutions are that this would be a fairly seamless transition and that people would just move across and get on with their online teaching and learning, much as they may well have done in the campus. So many educators received very little by way of professional development before they moved to teaching online or as their career progressed. And where there was development, quite a lot of it is to do with technology and instructional design, rather than perhaps focusing on online pedagogy and creating online teaching presence. So the intervention that I'm just completing in terms of data collection has involved 14 online educators from 9 UK higher education institutions who've worked together in a Change Laboratory setup over the last 7 months. So they've met on a fortnightly basis for 7 months to engage in exploring the concepts of their professional development and how they can come together as a group to work on that. The Change Laboratory is grounded in cultural historical activity theory, which drives the way that the methodology works. And the participants have worked with concepts of expansive learning, double stimulation and activity systems models. I don't really have time to go into in the 5 minutes, but really around building their ability to make changes going forward as a group rather than just as individuals. So the outcomes of this study so far are that this has really helped to capture the voice of online educators themselves. Previously, much of the work that's been done in this field is done by managers, directors of educational establishments, people who don't necessarily teach online, who are not actually working at the coalface. And in my participants, I have people who have both been having to move online, pivoted online through the COVID pandemic, and people who've been working entirely online for a number of years now, which has been very interesting. I'm hoping that the outcomes of the project, and I'm just about to move into the data analysis side of this work, will really help to inform how we can move forward some of the professional development interventions for educators who work online to really master the complexity of their role, to improve the effectiveness of online education and give a really rich experience to learners and educators, to maybe help to build organizational capacity for higher education institutions, and to give an overall increase in job satisfaction and well-being for online educators. There is has been a tendency to see online education as something of second class or second best, although that's kind of mixed bag at the moment with everything that's been happening. The study has also provided, importantly, new knowledge about how to use the change laboratory methodology in a synchronous online environment. There are not many studies that have been done in this way, and I'm now working with some other people who are doing similar work with the change laboratory online. So that's really good. We can contribute to the literature there. And hopefully by doing that, this offers education researchers a new option. Something like the Change Laboratory offers an option to work with geographically dispersed participants across a range of activity systems. As my study certainly wouldn't have been very doable across 9 institutions if I'd had to get them together physically every 2 weeks. It just wouldn't have happened. So there's been a lovely benefit there of the potential to work with the methodology online. So still quite a way to go. Quite a number of stones turned, but more stones to turn. Thank you very much.
Well done, Jane. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering, just to clarify that when you recruit those participants who agreed to do it, they thought like they're going to meet in person, or when you, at the time of recruitment, you already made it online?
No, it was always going to be online, because that was one of the goals of the study, is to actually see how the Change Lab can be adapted for online use as opposed to only using it in a physical. So that's part of the actual research itself.
Thank you. That's very helpful to know. I myself will be very interested in knowing what kind of knowledge you could contribute in terms of working with a lot of people. I mean, for CTEL as well, that's the whole entire theme of the event as well. So thank you, that was very helpful. Any questions, please ask so in the chat. We're gonna move to our last presenter, but before that, I just noticed that Said, you're kind of back and forth. So if you're now here, I may just want to grab you before you just leave the room again. So shall I just stop the presentation here? Murat, if you excuse me, I'll go back to Said for now. So give him an opportunity to speak about his study, and we can come back to you, Murat, as the last speaker. Said, are you there?
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. I'm happy to be with you. I'm Said Mahmoud. I'm a PhD student at Lancaster University, and I work at the moment. I'm in Kuwait, and as you know, there are a lot of limitations, and we have here in Kuwait curfew. So my study is about makerspaces, and let me, in brief, define what a makerspace is. A makerspace is a place where students can innovate and can utilize different kinds of technology to design a new solution to solve specific problems related to their local community or another country, for example. I work as a makerspace, and my makerspace is a huge place. You can find there are more than 13 more than 13 workshops. We have a 3D printing workshop, technology workshop. We have robotics workshop. We have woodwork, CNC, laser cutter, STEAM labs, and art and crafts labs. And also we have many stations for filmmaking. When I started to work at this makerspace, I have noticed that there is a great hype, or a lot of people speak about makerspaces and innovation. However, we need to ask ourselves about, is there evidence for learning of the making activities, or do our students, whenever they come to the makerspace, do they learn or not? Because the thing is, at the moment, is two pressing needs in education today. How can we engage our learners, and how can we prepare our students for the future? And makerspaces have been shown to foster learning and help students to become problem solver, critical thinker, collaborator, and creative makers by engaging them to enhance on learning experience. So I decided to conduct this study to examine and explore any learning that might happen inside the makerspace. And I have, my research question is, I'm trying to design a model for a school makerspace, because I noticed that there are a lot of studies conducted in university makerspaces, library makerspaces. However, very few studies have been already conducted in school makerspaces, because there are very few school makerspaces around the globe. I have here used the three conceptual frameworks. I have I used a partnership for 21st century for century learning to examine the skills that might be learned by inside the makerspace. Also, I have used a tinkering framework. A tinkering framework is a framework for the makerspace, but this framework mainly will examine the life skills that students might learn. For JIP's reflective model, it's mainly it will help me to design the reflective journal, because this is the next slide, please. I will have like three data collections. One of them is reflective journals by students, and also I have surveys for teachers and students, because I have noticed that many researchers forget the voice of the students. So mainly my study value the voice of students in the makerspace. At the moment, I try to postpone my study because I don't have students inside the makerspace, but I got an idea, and it's approved by my supervisors, Dr. Don, that I will design like blended activities. Blended activities means technology or making activities. Students will design something, and then they will send me the design, and I will give them remote access to the 3D printer, a laser cutter, and all the things. And after that, after I 3D print and laser or cut their models, they are going to send their drivers to the school, and they are going to collect their models, and later they are going to work on their reflective journals. I hope, what is the significance of this study? Firstly, I'm going to help teachers, schools, how to integrate makerspace into the school. And secondly, I'm working on designing a framework for schools to design makerspace. And also I'm going to update the tinkering framework. Also, new design stances will be identified. And I hope I'm going to create a new model for the school makerspaces for the schools to follow. Thank you very much.
Well done, Say. I really appreciate the effort that you had to change your project. I mean, a lot of our PhD students went through the same issue during the COVID. So I'm glad that you find the probably better idea how to shift your study. We have a quick kind of comment from the chat that JD asked that some of these ideas are quite context specific. So since you're kind of saying that you're going to develop the framework applicable in other schools, do you think that like the design that you created based on your school is going to be applicable to other schools, like in different regional area, probably?
In fact, Dr. Lee, the framework that I'm using already, it's like a museum framework or a makerspace museum. It's not for a school makerspace. What I'm trying to do, I'll try to work with students and teachers, because one of the main goals of me is to create like a framework for school makerspaces. So I'm going to customize this framework to meet the needs of the school makerspaces.
All right, great. It seems like you have a good idea there. All right, so if you can comment on the chat related with the comments, that will be great. So I'm sorry, my apology. We have 2 speakers left. I hope that audience do have some energy to keep going, but we can come back to UK. So Murat, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Good, go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, first of all, hello everyone, and hello Claire. I said hi in the beginning, but I guess that was kind of lost in the chat section. But anyhow, so I guess I'm going to be an outlier in a sense that I'm not going to be talking about a specific project that I'm working on at the moment, but I would like to talk about my research in general. Here in this first slide, also the world map on the left is sort of showing the institutions or the people that I've collaborated so far. And just by doing this, it kind of reminded me that although I have quite a good reach in many continents, I guess, except South America, it also seems like quite a English-speaking world or the European origin. I guess I need to look into myself. Anyway, anyhow, right. So what I do, I guess, is going to be quite open-ended. Is that I'm a scholar in online education. I'm really interested in online education and pretty much everything about online education. But obviously, when it comes to narrowing down, I guess it's easy to say that what I'm trying to understand is that what it means to be in online spaces and how people socialize in those spaces and how they form their learning communities and what are the interactions happening in those learning communities and what are the implications for these interactions for learning. Obviously there are many different ways of doing this, but I'm mostly interested in the collective pedagogy is related to the collaborative actions. I interchangeably use collaboration or cooperation, although I know the separation and they're quite separated terms, but I try to use them in an umbrella term of a collective pedagogies, I guess, because details are, I guess, quite trivial in certain ways. And also the other important aspect of my work that is always over there is the idea of social justice. That's also quite working well with the collective pedagogies and learning communities, because when group work is involved and when it comes to how people communicate with each other and how people are related to each other, almost always there are some differences coming into a play, and how those differences play a role in the learning process is the way that I make my way to social justice. I do use different sort of methodologies for this. Once I was calling myself an ethnographer, but I guess I dropped that idea, but I do like ethnography. I also adopted phenomenography lately, but also I've been doing some quantitative work in trying to understand how different dynamics related to each other, or how different dynamics could explain other dynamics that are related to online education or any kind of group work, or how people really related to each other. Well, that slide shifting is quite prompt, like seriously. Well, anyway, one example of how I guess my work can be summarized is that book, obviously, that came out last year. So it starts from the criticism of the idea that online education has always been framed as anytime, anywhere access, but I started to criticize this idea because it's self-referential and we're almost always bounded with timeframes, and whether that's going to be the final paper that you need to write, or whether that's the heat of the conversation that you're having with your peers. Because if you go back and comment on a post that's been posted like 3 months ago, it's not going to do the same impact when people were talking about that topic at that moment. So I was just criticizing this idea, and then that led me to the to really understand how that actually limitations play out in an online space, and then that led me to the idea of equal opportunities to participate, because while online learning is also framed, you know, around this idea of anytime, anywhere access, it is not necessarily that every people have equal access or equal opportunity to participate. Yes, online space can bring us together, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we are heard or we're really participating equally, or really be member of the communities that we want to be. So I was really looking into the how people present themselves and what that presentation really meant for learning experiences. It turns out that the way that people present themselves have an impact on whether they could be part of a learning community or not, and whether they could be legitimized or understood as a core participant of a learning group, let's say. So the summary from that research was that, or this book is the takeaway line is that not everybody can be in online spaces as who they are, but everybody has to present themselves in different ways, and those differences is actually creating different learning experiences. And obviously that's the open-ended question of what that really means for learning.
Thank you. So we have a quick comment or question from Mike from the chat saying collective pedagogies. So detailed or quite trivial? That's what you said, Murat. Do you want to just unpack it a little bit for like next 30 seconds?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, that's coming from Mike. I'm not surprised. If you are quite interested in network learning or any research community that is actually looking quite in a detailed way to these concepts, obviously you can argue the otherwise. They're quite different. Cooperative pedagogies are usually where people work together, but the work is done by individual people. And the collaborative pedagogies is a pedagogical setting where the work is divided across different people, and obviously they will require different teaching settings and different, you know, pedagogical, I guess, settings to really support learning in those places. But I like the idea of saying collective, because in one way or another, it is always how we interact with the group, how people are really interacting with the others.
All right, thank you. So yeah, we could keep going in the chat. So shall we go to the last presenter? So Simon, are you there?
I am, yeah, hopefully you can all hear me.
Yes, very good. I will pinpoint you. Okay, go on.
Lovely, thanks everyone. It's been great listening to all of your research, your projects and all your work. And although the work that I talk about here is kind of centered around my PhD study, here you'll see a link at the end to a very international, in fact, South American project that was influenced by some of this work. So we can just nip to the first slide. So the work that I'm doing is really centered around understanding how academic staff perceive professional or academic development, and I'm using TPACK as a theoretical framework to explore that piece of work. And I just thought it's always worth having a brief overview of that framework so that those of you that aren't familiar with it get a sense of what I'm using it for. So the TPACK framework was really an extension of Schulman's work around the idea of pedagogical content knowledge and the relationship between the subject and the way you teach it, the pedagogy. And then Mishra and Kula, they extended that by adding the technology aspect. And I suppose that's the area that I'm interested in, is the interrelationship between the technological knowledge, the technologies we use, the pedagogical knowledge, the way we teach and the way our students may learn, and content knowledge, which is the subject expertise. The framework is really well established in the US, particularly around teacher education, but it's really got some traction now in terms of a global use. And I've just put a particular example of how TPACK's been used around teacher education, exploring it across 6 countries in Asia and Europe, if people are interested in exploring it. But it's had limited use in the UK higher education, so that's really the niche area that I'm exploring with it. So this is just to give an example of some of the data. What I'm exploring is the variation or the ways in the various ways in which people understand or connect with their professional development as academics. And what I asked them to do as part of this process is I asked them to map their time against each of the TPAC domains and subdomain areas. And these are just examples of how people do that. So what they're asked to do is say, tell us where you spend time and tell us where you think you need to spend time, and you can see the different colors denote the kind of aspects or the extent to which they do spend that time. The gray line on this is also asking what the institutional expectation is, because I'm also interested in exploring kind of what influences people to spend time in certain areas. But the whole point of using TPAC is get people to think about how they spend time developing their technological skills, their pedagogical skills, and their own subject knowledge or discipline area. So I've also undertaken some semi-structured interviews, which are currently being processed, starting that process now after a period of intercalation. What things have emerged for me are things like the idea of institutional influence on people's decision making is really quite low, and actually a school or departmental influence is a much heavier influencer than the institution itself. And it's quite interesting when you ask academic staff about institutional strategies around digital, and they have very little reference point to it, as if they've hardly looked at it at all. But if you ask what the drivers are in their school or department, they're actually quite verbal about that, and they can articulate that quite well. The concept of academic development itself is undefined in the sense as all the interviews that I've taken so far, there's not been a single definition that's come out, and I think that's probably problematic in some areas, because actually there isn't a clear concept of what we mean by academic development. A strong emphasis on content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. Now post-COVID we may see that increase, but at the moment the interviews are clearly showing strong preference towards spending time in content knowledge areas and pedagogical knowledge. Lack of homogeneity with regards to professional development of academic staff, lack of joined upness inside institutions sometimes, and a lack of clarity around expectation. And then I just picked out some key drivers for academic development. Personal success is right up there. That drives people. Student success to some extent is also a driver, but it's an expectation, but also in some cases to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the process. And I've used TPAC as a connecting framework. And all of this has fallen out of into a project that I've been working on with the British Council, which is to help transition 650 university teachers into online teaching during COVID. And we've used the TPAC framework and some of the mapping that I've been doing to support that process.
Thank you. I'm sorry about me clicking it wrong button. So well done. Do we have any quick question from the audience? I mean, I personally am very interested in this. It would be really nice that, especially what you got, the graphs that you just showed us. Mm-hmm. So how you assess that, how you work with those participants in terms of drawing that graph. I think that process will be quite interesting to share. So, I mean, I guess that you're going to share it later in your publication and so on, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interrelation between that and a workshop that runs alongside it. So, yes. Yeah,
that would be good. All right. So thank you so much, Simon. Any questions or comments, please use chat. All right. So we're going to move to almost the last part of the the session. So talking a little bit about, for those who don't really know about how lovely, I mean, how lucky we are in terms of having this brilliant PhD students and alumni. I mean, that's our core thing that we have, especially for CTEL. So we'll have kind of brief moments. So Dawn, if you're there, to introduce the program that we're closely collaborating with. So you can introduce the TEL program, that will be great. Dawn, can I have you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Lovely, I'll spotlight you.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Kyungmee. I must say that you know, my immediate thought on this is, wow, how can I follow that series of presentations? you know, I'm always just amazed by the range of studies and the range of areas that our students and researchers work in, and that you're working in, you know, beyond that. And this just goes to show that. So, okay, I've been asked to say a bit about the TEL doctoral program, e-research and technology enhanced learning. Just to say, for those of you that don't know much about it, and actually there are lots of people in this session who are probably just as able to speak about this as I am. So I hope I get everything right, but you know, if I do get anything wrong, just let me know. But basically, we are an annual running program. We start with a cohort of students, so we don't work with individuals to start off with. We work with cohorts, 25 to 30 students at a time, and we start every January. And the cohort that we're running with currently is the 14th cohort in the program. So we're quite a well-established program, and we have many students, and it's great to see so many of you that are already part of the way through, that have gone through, that have completed, etc. And that's wonderful to see, and great that you've been able to come along today. Always our program is international. I mean, that's the focus of what we're talking about in today and beyond in this series of events. It always has been international, and as far as I can see, it always will be international. We have representation from many countries, you know, and we have had representation from 6 of the 7 continents of the world. So if you want a real challenge, you know, there is one continent that we've never had anyone from, and that's Antarctica. So there's the challenge of the next decade, maybe. I don't know, but we are international. We work with folk part-time, so we're not a full-time program. We're a part-time program. So it means that people can carry on with their work while they're working on this program. And to do that, of course, people need to be where they are working. And that means that we enable people to work wherever they are internationally. That means that we don't create a lab facility, which is one way of organizing those. We create a cohort facility where people can communicate and collaborate. And of course, that means that sort of process, those abilities to connect together and to collaborate and to see one another, should be able to be continued beyond the program. And that's one of the great assets of this center, of the CTEL center, is its ability to do that, because we don't have that sort of ability to do that within the program itself, but we can do that through the center, which is wonderful. So the sorts of connections and collaborations that you've had whilst you've been in cohorts through the program can continue through the center activities and through the center work. So it means that CTEL is able to maintain those connections, and importantly, it's able therefore to be able to take the things that you have done within the program and beyond to feed back into the program. So it's a wonderful way, I think, in which collaboration is happening within the department and beyond, so that those things can happen, and they can happen internationally. So it's great that there are so many people here today within this event that are in various parts of the world who are coming together through this medium. And that's what we've always sought to do, and that's what we will continue to do, is to enable people to work in a research arena wherever they are in the world, and to collaborate together. It means that there are those width of possibilities. Those widths of possibilities that go beyond a lab facility, actually, because those width of possibilities means that you have the potential to be able to link and to build contacts with people internationally. So, you know, I see part of the benefit of the program and the center as having that opportunity to enable the continuity of those international links that we know are there. And it's great to see that there, and that I hope that it will continue to flourish. So thank you for the chance to briefly chat.
Thanks. Well done. Sorry, we're just a bit up, so time is a bit up for entire session, so I'll just cut you off. But thank you so much for that brief note. Just so you know, everyone, what's coming in terms of the April, I just want to introduce a few things. So everyone who is in part 2, I see many of you, please come back to us tomorrow because we're going to have a little fun. Because we were always talking about how to reconnect those part 2 students who some of you feel isolated. So we want to do this more regularly, but this is going to first attempt that we do. We, as you can see, that Phil, our new Phil Moffitt, who is our new rep, have put a lot of effort. And as you can see there, we're going to do speed dating and pop quiz. There's going to be a lot going on tomorrow. It'll be fun. Bring your drink, and although it's lunch, you can bring your tea. But anyway, I want you to see you all. If you don't have a link to registration, feel free to email Phil, and I'm pretty sure he will help you. And 3 events happening, as briefly mentioned by Mike about the next Meet and Eat. We will have Meet and Eat, Show and Tell, Meet and Eat, all the information. I'm happy to resend. So check your email, please. And then finale will be anyone who has felt a bit shy to kind of really join the actual official meeting. What we want to do end of this month, have the 1-hour very short meeting for those who haven't been involved but feel like you want to do something. This is going to be casual conversation for us to be able to talk about different ideas and plan what the center can do better to make sure everyone feel more welcome. So please come to this event and just introduce yourself to other people again, and that's great. We hope that that's a great way for us to be reconnect. So that's all we have prepared today. It was not too bad, 2 minutes. So what I want to do is, as usual, if you can turn on your camera or microphone and say goodbye to each other, that would be great, because that's how the human being works in regular occasion, isn't it? But great to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.